Okay.
My background, okay, yeah, I can.
You didn't tell me the truth on all that.
As far as my military past, no, I didn't.
Okay.
But I mean, as you said, I didn't tell nobody that. Nobody really knows that.
Uh-huh.
But as my military past, yes, yeah, I'll admit to that. But
Okay.
I had nothing to do with her death, no.
Were you there when she was killed?
No, I was not.
No. The DNA, the polygraph.
Okay. 2 years ago in Fargo?
Yep, in 2004. During the time period you were in Fargo.
I know
I know you're going to sit there and tell me that, but as I said, the polygraph I can dismiss that. The DNA I can't. I have to find how did you tell me how did
Tragically, just a month before he was killed, on August 22nd, 2006, she was older man spotted while the details of the attack to the point that she went to the Valley City Police Department to file a report. When CSIs discovered the kitchen knives that were used to kill Mindy, they had parts of DNA present on them from two unknown male contributors, which could not be identified due to contamination and breakdown. Given those
other than the one time the 10 days ago?
No. I wasn't.
So there isn't going to be, you know what trace evidence is? Trace evidence is what you repair,
can talk to you, I can talk to you, you're gonna talk to me.
Dobra, di dreapta, tu sei un po'
And there could be somebody else that's going on.
That's fine. So, yeah, I need to come pick up the kid, the truck.
Yeah, we'll take care of that in a little bit.
mai dinamik.
What we're gonna do here, what I'm trying to do is give you a break. And right now, we're trying to do.
Bad driver.
With Mo denying absolutely everything, the interview comes to a halt. That is, until a pair of detectives give him a run for his money
Ogarniasz kulania mordurę, tą górę co
That
fut.
matches yours, okay, and there's no way to get around that, it's obviously that you were there. And how, you know, I don't know, have you been to skills school? Pin drop.
Deleted.
Well,
And it's
So
not
I
gonna
can
be in
find
your
it.
place. I mean, if we do,
No,
this
but-
is your chance. How are you gonna explain it? Let's say, your wife. This is gonna. What happened here?
Uwaga, ci zaranie.
for it to
You
happen.
fucking
And
here,
peasant.
you seem like a person that if this would happen, something
Słuchajcie,
starts. You
ale
can explain
grindelog
what
masz tu
happened.
nastawiony,
But
to
this
jest
is not
trudne
right
zero. fucking lame a fost
It's
asta.
time to
Holy
take some
shit.
responsibility for this. It's gonna be put in, we're gonna be doing, we're gonna find the trees that are
Bun, am rating super. Vreau să vă impresionat.
Do you think
Oh,
That's something,
I don't-
that's
I-
something we're gonna
no.
have to look at.
lights off the fucking road like a
You
dick.
can look at it however you want to. Do what you gotta do. I just and I'll sit and listen to you.
so many people out there.
And they said I got
I give you. And then when it comes time, they go. This is your chance to help yourself out, help the family out. We don't want to go back and say Mo's a cold-blooded killer because we don't think that. We're going to say, here, we talked to Mo.
After all, he made several trips back and forth.
So you go, your face, car, say,
Du
okay,
te-ai
I'm
îngâtul,
done.
mate.
my new chopper blood from.
Pace greu să pe drumul mașina asta, holy
Then
friction, holy
have to
friction.
explain that.
Where
Okay,
friction?
but you'd be willing to talk to us if we.
Sure.
Okay.
And what if you don't find nothing? You
You'd
still
still
like
like
to
to
talk to
talk.
me? Sure.
I'll talk to you either way.
That's fine. Dude, I mean, my truck is right out there.
Just sit there and relax for a minute.
Uite da rekao, bak pula ja sam ovdje.
Getting back to the bar. She left the man.
Not really.
Maybe.
I mean, blind. I mean,
Well, yeah, I know. Good.
I mean, and you know, I can't say for sure. You know, I mean, it's possible. If she said she met me and left, you know, it's possible.
Ceva care totuși are ceva
Did it
definitiv
happen
de
one
adevărat.
time? Did I only see her one time?
That's what
Any
she
kind is good,
That
but
we
some
only seen each
kind
other
is
one time?
always okay.
It's possible. It happened a few times that I picked somebody up at the bar and went somewhere. But I know for a fact that I never had to just take anything.
We'll be back. Fine. We'll let you know.
Could you stand up, please, with your hand behind your back? We have an arrest warrant
Camera,
for
get the fuck up.
murder of meeting ordinance. Okay, there's your copy. We have a search warrant for you. You got any scratches on you?
I do, but not on my hand, right?
Run
This
to
one over here happened Thursday.
What happened? What's it?
I was on
Right there? What happened there?
that happened Thursday when I was moving.
Uh-huh.
This
What
one?
happened? What happened with you?
I was like packing stuff in boxes. And this one on this side right here. I
What's it?
can't.
Let me see. I just want to look. You don't mind me?
That happened Friday and Friday. And I was put in the car seat. And that's my wife.
Do you know when you cut yourself? You know what? If you can show what you cut yourself on.
I don't know exactly
What do you think it was?
I was packing boxes. I'm not sure.
So, boy, what do you think? How do you think this happened?
I don't know. So
You don't seem too upset about this.
what can I do? I can yell, scream, and moan. It's not gonna make a difference. I'm still sitting here in handcuffs. I can scream, yell, and moan, and get tased. I can scream, yell, and moan.
I just think you're making a mistake by not.
Okay, well,
That's-
because I know
Something happened, and you can say, you know what, this is what happened, and I was only protected. I don't care. Something, not that I went in and I just butchered this gal. That's what they're gonna say out there.
You're right. You told me
And
already.
you know what? If something happened and you had to defend yourself. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Something, she said something that was totally uncalled for. I don't know what happened, but just to go and kill this girl doesn't make sense to me. I don't see that from me. I don't see that from
At
me.
least one person is saying that.
That's bad.
But the evidence
Big
is
bad.
saying
But the evidence is wrong.
Someone's gonna have
not
a
DNA.
minus race car.
You know what? A lot of people have gotten out of prison for DNA. But the same thing, DNA puts them in. And you know that. But I wish there was something, anything for you to say, this is what happened. But
And I wish I could too, but I can't.
I could help you out, but I can't help you out. These guys do what they want to do.
And you're right, they're gonna do exactly what they want.
You know what? We could separate straight up.
There's no setting it straight.
I read the reports. You know what? You think I would come in and say,
You read
did?
it, or you didn't.
In the wake of Moe's arrest, a wave of allegations surfaced from the very prison where he worked. 5 female inmates at the Barnes County Jail came forward to independently report that Gibbs had assaulted them while he was employed as a corrections officer. They described a man who routinely exploited his authority, preying on inmates in isolated areas. Consequently, by late 2007, Moe Gibbs was sentenced to 15 years in prison for the jail assaults, 12 years for the assault in Fargo, both to run concurrently with his life sentence for the murder of Mindy Morgenstern.
In the early morning hours of a sultry Sunday morning, Fidel Lopez took a cigarette break. Inside the new apartment, just past the broken sliding glass door, was his 31-year-old girlfriend, lying in a pool of her own blood, dead or dying. He finished his cigarette and steeled his nerves to make the call to 911.
911, what is your emergency?
Place the cargo. What cargo? Forgot about the cargo, bro. No, that's all. You stab, you cry. Piece of shit.
We can get her some help.
Once they had a location, the Broward County Sheriff's Office 911 operator quickly dispatched officers. It was 3:39 a.m. on Sunday, September 20th, 2015. They would find a cargo ship.
Oh my
Before
God.
we start, we would like to send our deepest sympathies to the loved ones of Maria Nemeth, who fell victim to the horrible crimes of that night. Before we begin, please be aware that today's story contains graphic details. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yes, sir. People are horrible in general.
According to the investigating officer, Detective Christopher B. Piper's affidavit, when police and rescue personnel entered Lopez's apartment at the Colonnade Residences, they found the 24-year-old Lopez standing next to the body of his girlfriend, Maria Nemeth. He cried for help, and EMTs immediately went to work rendering aid to her. Blood had pooled around Nemeth's body. Police also saw that a walk-in closet nearby was also splattered with large amounts of blood. Damage to the walls and doors throughout the apartment was extensive. Lopez looked on as EMTs were unable to find any signs of life in her. She was pronounced dead at 4:02 a.m. Obvious signs of struggle and the almost definite assurance that there had been foul play led to a crime scene being established. The apartment was secured. Lopez was detained while investigators were dispatched. Detective Piper said that when he arrived at the scene, he spoke briefly with one of the officers there and then did a preliminary walkthrough through the nearly bare apartment. A Sunrise Road police officer briefed him on who the people were and what was known about them at that time. Maria and Fidel had moved into apartment 308 at 1630 Northwest 128th Drive in Sunrise, Florida, less than a week before the incident. Maria, a native of Peru, was the leasing manager at the apartment complex. Fidel had worked as a mechanic at a truck stop in nearby Davie, Florida. The two had started dating about a year and 2 months earlier after meeting at a club. Maria had just finished with an 8-year marriage. Fidel, at the time, was living with his mother of 2 children. The two had moved into the apartment in Hollywood Beach, Florida, shortly after becoming a couple. Around the new apartment were signs of a couple just starting out. There was not a complete set of furnishings for the place. The couple had been using boxes for a table on the night of the incident. It looked like the first apartment of any young couple that had just moved in, except for the holes in the walls, the shattered glass door, and the blood everywhere, and of course, Maria's lifeless body. Detective Piper's account said that Maria's naked body lay on the bathroom floor. Beyond the blood on the floor of the bathroom, there was blood on the walls in the hallway and on the doors of the closet and bathroom. Inside the closet, there were chunks of what appeared to be human flesh. Detective Piper was then introduced to Fidel Lopez. The detective asked if he would be willing to speak with the investigators about what had happened. The report says that Fidel voluntarily agreed and then accompanied the officers to the Sunrise Police Station. At 7:40 a.m., Fidel was brought into an interrogation room and informed of his Miranda rights. The man then signed a waiver to those rights. Defense attorneys would later argue, unsuccessfully, that since Fidel was not a native English speaker, he could not have understood the rights fully. Fidel told the detectives that he did not read English, but that if they read it aloud to him, he would understand what they said. A Spanish-language version of the form was provided for him to read as well. Fidel, a native of Cuba, had moved to the United States 7 years earlier at the age of 16. He had attended high school but dropped out in the 10th grade. He began speaking to investigators about the relationship, how it all started, and how it had developed. Fidel began telling how, on Saturday, he had gotten off work and met up with Maria, who had also gone into work for a couple of hours. She fixed a meal for them of chicken, beans, and rice. After finishing that, they went and visited his mother in Miami. They then came back and went to a Chili's restaurant near their apartment. The two each had a margarita and then shared a third one. They then went to a nearby ABC liquor store and bought a bottle of 1800 Reposado tequila, and then they went home, all sometime by around 10 p.m. that evening.
All right, so tell me about the night before we get back to the house. Tell me what happened.
We get to the house, she was already like kind of tipsy, with my baby she was. We stopped playing. We put like 2 cardboard boxes in the floor, with a black cardboard. Because we don't have furniture, so we're about to buy. I want to get big, we're about to buy furniture, TV, things like that, And then we start playing, we were talking, and listening to music, and we have a lot of shock. We'd be like, I don't have plans. Because so and she was a lot crazy, so she was asking me for stuff that she never asked me for. Like, they wanted to put a bottle of food, Sorry, I'm just talking right now. I want you to take me over with her, and absolutely. But you're not disrespecting her. You're just telling us what she told you. I'm her man, so whatever she asked me to do, whatever it is, I'm get what it is.
What Fidel said that she asked him to do next, we will not repeat out of respect for the deceased. It was, however, violent and dangerous. He claimed then that his recollection of the exact things that happened were fuzzy because he had been drinking. He then proceeds to skip to just before he called 911.
But when we were doing stuff and all the things, she told me she wanted to throw up to get out of the bathroom. So I get out of the bathroom and I was outside. You know, smoking a cigarette. I couldn't look if the road was already break or something. I really don't know. I know I break it because she was not strong enough to break it. Which was the glass door. I just remember I see glass in the floor. I really don't remember when I break it or why I break it. You know, to be honest with you, I really don't remember. The only thing I remember clearly is that I went to the bathroom and she was like not breathing. She was like this. You know, it's one upon the moon. Where was she? She was like between the toilet and the shower thing. Like just like, and I thought she was crying in the shower. But no, she wasn't. I thought she was throwing up, but you know, I'm here anymore, so I went to go and she announced it and I getting she wasn't breathing. You know, she was constant. She was talking to me, you know. But you know, one moment I get so nervous and scared, and then I get the phone and go to the mom because she was
Fucking criminal asshole.
The detectives could tell that Fidel's story wasn't adding up, so they pressed him for more details. He said that in addition to the tequila, the couple had bought a pack of condoms that evening. After they had been drinking, he said they engaged in rough activities without using the condoms. He then made sure to tell the investigators that she was conscious the entire time.
You know, I just tried to make her happy, whatever. But she was constant. She was like, she wasn't like knocked out or something like that. I would never do that to my daughter, knocked out, you know? That's not me. That's not me.
Fidel said that the activity started in the closet and then moved to the bathroom, but that the alcohol made it hard for him to remember exactly what they had done.
But to be honest with you, details, like that, I cannot tell you, man. I was drunk just like her. You know, I would love to tell you every detail, you know, and I'm doing my best one. I understand. I also want to make sure that we have everything that occurred and happened, so that when we look at her, we can understand what really happened, okay? Just and I was supposed to do that. We go for a drunk. You know, I got so feel like, sure. And then they call me another one. So you're talking to them and we understand. You know what it is, man.
The detectives asked him about the argument that the two had had earlier in the evening. He said there was no argument, that they were just listening to music and drinking shots together.
To be honest with you, I do remember when the glass broke or something wrong. I really don't know. So I know it's probably because I know
Funny how stories change when there's only one person left to tell it.
She was kind of upset. She was talking about you, man. Like, she really thought that maybe
she was, you know, I wasn't upset at all. I mean, I just felt a little like down, but not upset because, you know, I knew she was wrong.
The big fella.
Was there any damage in that house prior to tonight?
Aina foi.
No, in the house there was no damage at all. The house was completely restored. Like everything was
Clean and in order. No holes in the walls.
no holes in the wall. Few holes in the wall there.
And why?
Yeah, you know, that's the problem. I don't know why. Who knows why? That's the problem. I'm trying to make up in my mind why did I do that. When I do that, it's because I'm pissed.
He mentions Maria's ex. Perhaps she had mentioned her ex-husband, he said, in the conversation, but that he went back to being unable to remember exactly what had been said. He then makes a statement that you can tell cracks his own foundations.
Right now, in my mind, the only thing I know is Maria's dead.
Detectives seize on the emotions that are beginning to work their way past the man's defenses. They start to leverage the acknowledgement that Maria is dead and asked him when did he know she was dead? What had he been doing when she died? The questions are asked in a very matter-of-fact style. There is no accusation in their tone. They keep everything conversational and let him respin his story.
Trying to give her a CPR. I don't even know how to give a CPR, but she wasn't breathing at all. She was with her eyes like open, but not moving. And I was scared, man. And I was waiting for police or Reckon to go over there, man.
Yeah.
You know, once I see she, and I was screaming. I was in the floor, trying to make her alive again, and the screaming, baby, you do this to me, baby, help, help, help. Somebody have to hear me, man. I mean, I believe the door is already break when that happens. So somebody from outside have to hear me.
The glass was already broke.
The glass was already broke, yeah.
Hey, during your argument or into when you were upset tonight, do you remember punching her, fighting with her, or anything like that?
No, man.
Okay. Have you ever punched her, hit her, or struck her in the past?
No.
Nothing physical?
Nothing. We just arguing, that's it.
As the interrogation went on, Fidel continued to say that all of the damage in the apartment was done by his hands on that evening. And then he is asked a very important question.
So you're saying everything in the house you did, everything that occurred in that house was caused by you?
Yeah, every breaking things and everything.
The injuries that she has inside of her?
Injuries that she has. That Mary, I did it. You know, I put this stuff in her. She did it by herself, but she was asking me to do it. You know. I mean, I did nothing like I didn't force her to do anything.
I understand. I'm just trying to make sure that we have anything.
I never forced her to do anything.
Fidel kept claiming that while they engaged in the rough physical activity, he kept asking her if it hurt, and did she want him to keep going. He said he told her she was bleeding, but she still claimed that it didn't hurt. They let him know that the medical examiner had arrived at the apartment, and that as a doctor, his examination showed that the injuries to Maria were very severe.
Okay. This is not a case of rough sex. There's blood everywhere. Everywhere.
It's going to slide you off.
I'm just doing what she told me
Because she wasn't telling you to do that. Because that's something else. The amount of pain that she would have been in would have been unbearable. There was injuries inside her that need to be explained.
Fidel stuck to his story, but the detectives pressed on, calmly saying that there was no way someone who loved another person could do these things to them.
There's things that were done in there, and I think you have a little bit of a conscience, and you were worried. You were worried because you even cleaned the blood off yourself.
He begins to break, and they tell him that they need him to come clean about what has happened, that they know more happened than he is telling them, and that Maria, the woman he loved, needed and deserved the closure that telling them would bring.
Do you love this girl?
Of course, babe.
Okay. Would you do anything to hurt her?
Of course not.
Okay. But you did.
Yes,
right?
you did, you piece of shit.
The injuries that were caused to her, she didn't do them to herself.
Of course not.
And there was no one else in the apartment.
It was me.
It was you.
I know.
And then Fidel begins to open up. He tells the detectives that Maria had told him that she wanted to go back to Peru and visit her mother. While she was gone, he wouldn't be able to use her car to get to and from work. He said he was angry over that and that he doesn't know how they ended up in the closet, but they had made peace. Then they began to have physical activity, and she called him by not his name, but by the name of her ex-husband. And then she said it a second time.
I did not kill her. I know I killed her. That's what I did. You have to lose.
From there, Fidel describes a terrible series of assaults on Maria, using both his own body and implements found around the house. After he finishes, he rages through the apartment, breaking things, and then stops to take a smoke break.
I can tell you right now, if I'm having sex with my wife and she calls out little name, I'm going to get pissed off. Okay? It's you and it's you. Don't. Hey,
This is not good. Just take it out. On YouTube. I'm not even gonna be able to see it.
He then goes on to tell the detectives that he went back inside, got out of the clothes he had on, washed up, and put on fresh, unbloodied clothes before calling 911. He had done the deed, and now he had admitted to it. As the interrogation went on, forensic experts and the medical examiner gathered evidence at the crime scene and examined Maria's broken body. Police officers checked with neighbors, many of whom said they had heard screams, shouts, and the sounds of conflict coming from the apartment. However, there were no other calls to the Broward County 911 that night dealing with the Colonnade residences. Forensic work turned up more evidence that coincided with the final story that Fidel had told investigators. Fidel Lopez was arrested and charged with the murder of his girlfriend, Maria Nemeth, around 1:30 p.m. that day. A long, horrific night had dragged into the next afternoon before Fidel was shackled and transferred to the Broward County main jail. A man who had no criminal record besides a 2014 arrest for disorderly intoxication sat in a jail cell, an admitted murderer, a monster caged and contained. Had it been the alcohol that had set him off? Had jealousy turned the man into something he could never have imagined before? In the initial rounds of trial in court, Fidel's defense attorneys attempted to have his entire interrogation and confession thrown out on the grounds of his limited knowledge of the English language, meaning that he could not have understood either his Miranda rights, allowing him to request an attorney to be present, and that he simply could not answer any questions if he chose. The judge ruled that there was sufficient evidence from the footage that Fidel demonstrated not just a working usage of the English language, but that he fully understood what was being asked of him and what he was saying back in return. The motion to suppress was dismissed. Fidel Lopez, accused of this horrific murder, was in line for the death penalty. Within the state of Florida, the death penalty is still available as a punishment. Still, with the heinous nature of the killing and the assault, Fidel could find himself on the state's death row, awaiting death by lethal injection if he was found guilty by a complete jury. The chance of that happening was simply too great. On July 14, 2017, after an extended stay in the Broward County Jail, Fidel Lopez accepted a plea deal before Judge Iona Holmes. In the courthouse located in Fort Lauderdale, he accepted a charge of first-degree murder and sexual battery. On August 3, 2017, Fidel Lopez was sentenced to life in prison. The terms of the plea deal, in exchange for removing the death penalty, prohibit him from appealing the sentence, and he can never be eligible for parole. The families of both Fidel Lopez and Maria Nemeth were shattered by the actions of that fateful night. No one can undo the monstrous events that happened, but perhaps some healing has been found since Fidel faced justice and punishment. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate every subscription. Also, hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows. This case is dreadfully tragic. A man brutally murdered his wife by hitting her repeatedly with a baseball bat. Then, 2 weeks later, he suffocated his 2 young stepsons. But his murdering streak did not end until 4 weeks later, when he drowned his 2 little girls in a bathtub. Why did he do it? And why did he keep the bodies in the back of his van for weeks after he killed them? Before we start, we would like to send our sincere condolences to the loved ones of Casey Jones and her 4 children who fell victim to the
I like the detective work, I don't like the killing. When I hear about these killers, I don't understand them, but the way they get caught by these super smart detectives is insane. They always fuck up. Fuck. Damage.
Welcome to Summerfield, a small unincorporated community located in Marion County in Central Florida. Meet 32-year-old Casey Jones and her 4 children, 10-year-old Cameron Bowers, 5-year-old Preston Bowers, 2-year-old Mercalli Jones, and 1-year-old Ayana Jones. She was a very caring and thoughtful woman, the type of person who would give a complete stranger the shirt off her back. She loved caring for animals, especially dogs, as a veterinary technician and groomer up until back problems forced her to become a stay-at-home mom. But most of all, Casey was a devoted mother and wife who always put her family first.
What the fuck?
Especially her children. Her social media pages were filled with images and videos that portrayed a big, happy family. No one could have predicted what would come to pass during the fateful summer of 2019. During that summer, the children spent time with extended family. The little girls with Casey's mother, Nikki Jones, and the boys with their biological father, Richard Bowers, Casey's ex-husband. It was on August 1st when Nikki received an unexpected message from Casey asking if she could watch the girls, Mercalli and Ayana, for a few days. Nikki thought it was odd that Michael showed up to drop the girls off instead of Casey, but didn't think too much of it at the time. A few days later, Nikki received another message from Casey stating that she was sick and asked if Nikki could hold on to the girls for a little longer. She had the 2 girls for 2 weeks before Michael showed up to take the girls home. During the time that she had Mercalli and Ayana, Nikki received no messages from Casey other than asking her to watch the kids for a bit longer. This was unlike Casey, who would normally check up with the children quite frequently whenever they were in someone else's care. Still, nothing about the girls or Michael's behavior gave off any indication that something was wrong. More time went by, and the boys' birthdays passed without Nikki or her other 2 daughters, Sarah or Brandy Gilbert, receiving a single phone call or message from Casey, which was not like her at all. She usually made a big deal over the children's birthdays and always included her extended family in the celebrations. On September 14th, 2019, Nikki, Sarah, and Brandy realized that weeks had passed since anyone had actually heard from or seen Casey. In addition, Casey had not been active on her social media. Panicking, Nikki first thought that it was Michael that must have killed Casey, but Brandy and Sarah thought their mother was overreacting. They believed a more reasonable explanation that Michael was probably running from the law again, so Casey's family could be in hiding. Michael had been arrested multiple times in the past for burglary and grand theft. Back in 2015, Michael had gone into hiding after stealing money, a gun, and computer equipment from the Mount Dora Animal Hospital, where he and Casey worked as veterinary technicians. During that incident, Casey supported Michael financially when he fled to New Mexico to avoid being arrested. So no one in the family would have been surprised to hear that Michael was running from the law again. Still, Nikki was not convinced. Fearing for the safety of her daughter and grandchildren, she called the Marion County Sheriff's Office and asked for a well-being check on Casey. Deputy Chase King went by the Jones residence to check on the family, but the home was vacant and had recently been cleaned out by the landowner. King spoke with one of the Jones neighbors who said that he was asked by the property manager to accompany one of the maintenance employees over to the Jones house to investigate a strong and foul odor coming from the mobile home. The neighbors said that it smelled as if something had died in that house.
Is there anything else out over there that you've noticed?
The plastic bag.
What plastic?
It's like a plastic.
Okay. Like the windshield was replaced with plastic, or was it plastic over it?
It looked like it had plastic right there. Like plastic.
Are you talking about like see-through plastic?
Yeah,
Like
but it wasn't see-through.
kind of like an old thing saran wrap?
It's like it was a plastic, but not see-through.
My lieutenant's on his way.
Fuck.
I don't know if he may want to talk to you. He may just talk to me and see what information I've got from you. Is there any towards Sharps Ferry, and then he went towards Mason County. Positive he turned left on Sharps Ferry. Like I said, I do appreciate your time. If you wouldn't mind just hanging up for a minute, about Lieutenant's on the way here. He's somewhere on this road. He's got to find a spot here, so.
On top of the bad smell emitting from the home, King noticed a small red stain on one of the bedroom floors as he peeked through the windows. After discovering the red stain, King called Sergeant Micah Moore to come and help him investigate the house further. With the property manager's permission, King and Moore entered the home. The smell permeated throughout the home, and they recognized it as the smell of human or animal decomposition. King and Moore noticed one of the bedrooms had a new parquet floor and baseboards installed. When they questioned the property owner about the repairs, they were immediately told to leave. Without a search warrant, there wasn't anything more they could do. So King and Moore contacted 2 more investigators. They briefed them on the situation, and they promptly began searching for and contacting family members of both Casey and Michael. With no clues to trace Casey or Michael's whereabouts, the sheriff's office posted a missing and endangered advisory on the morning of September the 15th for Casey and the children, and began working on getting a search warrant for their Summerfield home. During that time, the sheriff's office received a phone call from Casey's ex-husband, Richard Bowers, who had just discovered that the boys and Casey were missing. Bowers had picked up the boys from Michael on July 27th. It was always Casey who met up with him to drop off the boys, so Bowers was surprised to see Michael instead. Since he had recently fought with Casey over getting the boys for the summer, he chalked it up to Casey not wanting to see him and thought no more about it. Bowers kept the boys until August the 10th. Upon returning the children to Casey again, it was Michael who showed up. As Bowers was dropping off the boys, Michael took him by surprise by apologizing to him. Apparently, Casey had been telling Michael that Bowers was abusive towards her and the children when they were together. Michael had since realized that Casey was lying and felt a need to apologize for believing all of the things that she had told him.
And I told him, and he remembered this, a few years afterwards, because he reported it to me, and this was as, I was bringing them to Georgia, but before we left the mall parking lot, when I picked them up for the first time, he had said, Richard, I just want to tell you, you told me something a few years ago that rings in my ears, and I had told him, I said, when we were in our altercation, I said, brother, I said, you freed me from 13 years now, and I said, thank you, and he reiterated that to me. He reminded me of that. He said, I want to tell you that I never forgot those words that you told me because I know now what you meant to this very day. And, he just kind of gave me a brief history of, everything that he's put her through, how if there's an 80-year-old woman walking down the street, he's got to hold his head down because she would accuse him of, trying to have sex with her. Pretty much any female, because that's what it was with me. But the part that was weird, sir, is he was really cool, like he was my home person, like we were best friends. And that's, I guess, it never dawned on me, of course now it does, but it never dawned on me at that moment that, it's almost like that was his apology for everything that he had done. And here I was, I took it out on myself because I'm a forgiving guy, I apologize for messed up. And I ended up, we even hugged, he shook my hand.
Although this apology, along with Michael's sudden friendly behavior towards him, was shocking, like Casey's family, Bowers didn't pick up on any clues that Michael was giving him that might lead him to believe that something was wrong. Bowers didn't realize anything was amiss until he saw the missing and endangered advisory for Casey and the 4 children on Facebook. That was when he called the Marion County Sheriff's Office. Hours later, Detective Bartlett discovered Michael Jones was involved in a single-vehicle crash in Georgia that same day. When police arrived on the scene, Michael immediately confessed to killing both Casey and the children.
41-year-old Michael Wayne Jones was arrested in Georgia in September of 2019 after a single-car crash. According to arrest documents, a deputy noticed that investigators to a wooded area where he had disposed of the children's bodies in totes and suitcases. Detectives say Jones told them he first killed his wife with a metal baseball bat. He then killed each child on different days and times by strangling or drowning them.
Who is Michael Wayne Jones? We don't know all of the details of Michael's past. He was born in 1980 and grew up in Vermont. He lived with his mother and father until his father was sent to prison for reasons that were not disclosed. Eventually, his mother remarried, and Michael's stepfather turned out to be abusive. At some point during his childhood, Michael was the victim of sexual abuse, but we don't know by whom. Michael grew up struggling with depression. He was prescribed the antidepressant Wellbutrin, which is used to treat major depressive disorders. We don't know when he started taking the medication, but he was definitely taking it in the year he murdered his family. Though Michael had stayed in touch with his mother throughout his life, they were never able to establish a healthy relationship. For 5 years, Michael was in the United States Navy and also served with the Marines in the medical field. Not long after getting out of the military, Michael married his first wife, Sarah. The couple had 3 children together. For work reasons, the family decided to move to Central Florida around 2011. Sarah got a job working at the Mount Dora Animal Hospital in Orange County. Eventually, Sarah talked the owners into giving Michael a job at the clinic as well. Michael had a positive reputation at the vet clinic and was well liked by the owners and staff. In 2014, Casey Jones, then having the last name Bowers, was hired to work as a veterinary technician. It wasn't long before Michael and Casey had an affair, and both ended up getting divorced from their first spouses as a result. In 2015, Michael's true colors began to show. The owners of the vet clinic realized Michael was manipulative, deceptive, and had been making sexual advances towards female staff. After learning of all of this, the owners fired him. In retaliation, Michael snuck into the clinic and stole the items that we mentioned previously. Though Casey witnessed Michael's manipulative and deceptive personality, she stayed with him, and they were married on Halloween in 2017. Mercalli Jones was born the same year Michael and Casey married. Ayanna was born the following year. Less than a year after Ayanna was born, Michael would murder his wife and all 4 children. On July 10th, Michael and Casey got into a heated argument. According to Michael, Casey accused him of cheating and came at him with a baseball bat. She pushed him with the bat, and then Michael pulled it from her hands and began to strike her repeatedly until she died. Michael took her body and hid it in his bedroom. At some point, Michael made the decision to kill the boys, Cameron and Preston, after he got them back from their father. They returned home from their father's house on August the 10th. Between that day and August 22nd is when Michael murdered them. He targeted Cameron first, strangling him with his bare hands while holding him down with his knee against the boy's back. The following night, he went after Preston. Taking a zip tie, Michael tightened it around the young man's throat and waited for him to die. Michael would tell investigators that he chose to use a zip tie on Preston because his hands were sore from strangling Cameron the night before. On August the 28th, Michael decided to kill the 2 girls, his own children as well. Filling up the bathtub, he took the girls one by one and held them under the water until they drowned. Michael placed all of the bodies in bags and totes and used cat litter to clean up. At this time, Michael was facing eviction and was going to be forced to move out at the end of August. He had to find a place to go quickly. During Labor Day weekend, Michael phoned his ex-wife, Sarah. He said that he and Casey had split up, and Casey took the children and went to her mother's house. To Michael's convenience, Sarah asked him to stay at her house in Jacksonville so that she didn't have to be alone during the upcoming Hurricane Dorian. Before heading to Jacksonville, Michael placed all of the bodies in the back of the van and then drove to Sarah's house. Michael stayed with Sarah until she received a phone call from the Marion County Sheriff's Office asking if she had seen Casey or Michael. Michael told her to tell the police that she had seen Casey and the children, and she obeyed. At that point, Michael realized it was time for him to leave and took off that afternoon and headed towards Georgia.
You were staying with Sarah when you with her last night?
I was up there.
Up there, okay.
Yeah, I did
She stayed in the apartment?
Yeah.
Did you guys hear when phone calls and all that?
Spin stuff. And I said,
Oh,
when she
dat
spoke
in
in
verder.
phone, yeah, I was there. What was going on? Just trying to figure it out. You were trying to figure out what I had going on. Did she talk to you? Did you tell her what to say there? She thought it was looking for just me and saying that you seen me or so yeah, I guess so basically what was the deal with she mentioned something about me and she mentioned that way or that's usually the spot. That's your usual check spot. So after that phone call, how long after that phone call did you leave? I think I left that check. So you were there for a while. When, after I called you the first time, did you tell her exactly what was going on? I gotta get out of here. Yeah. Did you get out of there after I called the second time? Around that time, yeah, she got mad. She left the house. We talked about they're coming back. You called me, right? I didn't call you. Why didn't you come? What do you think was going to happen today after you left? What was the plan?
Between September 1st and September 14th, Michael had all 5 bodies stashed in the back of his van while staying with Sarah, who was completely unaware. Once he entered the state of Georgia, Michael took the children's bodies and hid them in a wooded area near the highway. But for some reason, he left Casey's body in the back of the van. Not long after getting back on the road, Michael ended up swerving off the road and crashed his van while checking his GPS. Michael received minor injuries from the crash and made the choice to call 911. When police arrived, he made no attempt to hide Casey's body. He immediately told police that he had murdered his wife and that he had her body in the back of the van. Michael also told police about the 4 children, what he had done, and where he hid the bodies. Michael was arrested and taken in for questioning. During the interrogation, police were surprised to find Michael calm, collected, and cooperative. Michael was first interrogated at a Georgia police station. During that interview, Michael stated that he had murdered Casey. He had pretended to be her by using her phone to send messages to family members. He also created posts on Casey's social media accounts to give the impression that she was still alive. Michael told investigators he considered turning himself in before he had murdered his daughters. He sat parked in front of the city hall in Marion County, Florida for quite some time.
it for several hours with my daughters. Kind of turn myself in, you know. What stops you from turning yourself in just this basic fear that you're gonna end up in a situation.
But in the end, he chose to take the girls' lives and tried to run. Once the police in Georgia were done with Michael, he was returned to Marion County, where he went through another interrogation. During this interrogation, investigators asked Michael if he had ever physically abused the children, which he denied. However, he mentioned that Cameron and Preston's biological father had.
During our investigation, somebody mentioned some incidents that happened with the boys previously. Have there been any issues where you discipline the children or anything like that and pick out on him? How would you discipline the boys?
We're still separated in the room, but sometimes we stay in the butt.
That's it. Did you ever think of anything beside the meal?
No.
There was mention that the boys were disciplined. I don't know if it was spanking or something. I know that when I was a kid, I was spanking the bell. Did you ever spank a kid with a bell?
Never had that happen.
No switch from the tree, nothing like that?
No old school, none of that. It was just
Too much
Somebody
speed.
mentioned maybe a clothes hanger.
nope. But that would have been something that happened with his father.
Tell me about that.
A couple of years ago, he was investigating. He had the kids for a weekend. It was Halloween, around Halloween. And the boys came back in their costumes. And the boys came in Batman costume. So he was autistic and he has trouble with putting, such a pain. So I did it, and I did. He peed with him, so I hollered at his mother. Investigations and told her she was going to, basically arrest me. It never happened. Kevin felt the crack. I'm not really sure exactly what went on. He got returned. He said it might have happened on the Dark House or something.
That was all kind of pushed aside the other way.
Throughout the interrogation process, Michael was asked why he murdered his wife and the children, especially his own little girls, Mercari and Ayana. He said his relationship with Casey gradually became more and more hostile.
What's your guys' relationship like? Is this an ongoing thing where you guys are at each other like this and fight? It just got worse. Like, little things all the time with her. She would come at me and argue, and I never really got physical.
When Casey came at him with the bat and accused him of cheating, he just lost it. After murdering Casey, why did he decide to go after the children? Why didn't he just leave them with family members? Empty prescription bottles and alcohol containers in the home show that Michael could have been under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or both when he murdered any one or all of his victims. But he never claimed to be under the influence of either during his interrogations. The trial began on December 8th, 2022 at the Marion County Judicial Center. Michael was tried for second-degree murder in the death of Casey and first-degree premeditated homicide for the death of the 4 children. Since he had admitted to murdering his family, his trial went directly to the penalty phase. Michael may spend the rest of his life in prison or may face the death penalty.
That's about the only best way to get started. As a father, as a parent, it breaks my heart. As a sheriff, it angers me to no end. Now, as far as I'm concerned, as the sheriff of this county, underneath the jail ain't good enough. We have no right to run and follow for this I hate to be him when he stands before the Lord.
I have never been a fan of the death penalty, but to be very honest with you, these are those cases where I would much rather that happens than that he sits somewhere.
On December 12th, the state attorney rested their case, stating that he wants Michael to receive the death penalty, and so do a few others. The state attorney explained to the jury how, in detail, Michael had brutally killed each and every member of his family without remorse. While the state attorney works hard to get Michael the death penalty, the defense attorney is fighting to keep Michael alive and have him spend the rest of his life in prison instead. The defense is scheduled to make their case in January of next year. He plans on calling 18 witnesses to the stand to prove that Michael deserves life and that his actions were the result of years of trauma he had suffered as a child and later multiple relationships that he had as an adult with dominating and abusing women. The defense is referring to Michael's actions as a freefall of psychotic chaos brought on by a lifetime of abuse. The defense also believes the jury should take into consideration the fact that Michael willingly confessed to the murders of Casey and the children, and even provided the location of the bodies instead of trying to cover it up on the day he was involved in the accident. After all, it was Michael who called 911 after the car accident, knowing he still had his wife's body in the back of his van with a strong smell of decay emanating from it. In Florida, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence says 37.9% of women and 29.3% of men experience domestic violence. According to the Florida Department of Children and Families, domestic violence cases were on the decline in 2018. However, the numbers began to rise again in 2019, the year Casey and her children were murdered. The lockdown during the COVID-19 pandemic caused the amount of domestic violence cases to rise even more during the following year. In 2019, the department had 105,298 documented cases of domestic violence, ranging from what would be considered simple stalking to criminal homicide. In 2020, the numbers went up to 106,615, which was the highest number of cases since 2017. The NCAA says 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 experience severe intimate physical violence. During his interrogation, Michael admitted that he murdered Casey after putting up with years of abuse from her. He couldn't take it and lost it. But it's hard to know for sure if this is true, since he has a history of being deceptive and manipulative. Is he just trying to gain some sympathy? According to Casey's sister, Sarah, Casey and her siblings grew up in a violent and unstable household. All 3 girls were physically abused by their mother. Sarah says that their traumatic childhood led all 3 girls to grow up with the ability to become vindictive and aggressive, and she wouldn't be surprised if Casey was abusive towards Michael if provoked. During Michael's interrogation in Georgia, a detective mentioned that one of Michael's employees had complained that the numerous calls and messages Michael constantly received at work from Casey. Casey's ex-husband, Richard Bowers, also said to Marion County investigators that she was physically and verbally abusive towards him during their 10-year marriage.
I remember a time when we were on the couch, and I was on the phone with my mom, just talking to her, and she comes up behind me and works out the notebook and has her name. She says, "You're townhouse upstairs." And Brad, this is the
Overhead, fuck you.
Just like, oh, she's got, some issues, but I mean, how much do you want to know? I mean, I can tell you everything,
Though Casey was abusive towards him, the couple did not divorce until after the affair between Casey and Michael. Richard Bowers never claimed that Casey was abusive towards the children, and he did not try to take sole custody of them, but opted for joint custody instead. Bowers told investigators he did not like nor trust Michael, and that his eldest son, Cameron, had once told him that Michael abused both the children and Casey. Bowers goes on to say that he was well aware that Casey and Michael had a history of long and violent arguments. Yet none of this information seemed to discourage him from leaving his children in Michael's care. With all of this supposed knowledge of the abuse in the Jones household, why didn't Richard Bowers do something to ensure the safety of his own children? Perhaps because he wasn't putting much effort into being in their lives in general. Casey had the children most of the time, and Bowers did not consistently make time for the boys. A text-message argument between Bowers and Casey accuses Bowers of going an entire year without seeing his children.
So I reached out to her originally June 5th at 5:50 p.m.
What does that conversation entail?
No thanks.
Yeah, I told her, you know, this is Richard. I'm reaching out to you regarding the boys. I'd like to know when they're off from school, and when do they resume back again, and what a good time would be to plan for picking them up for the summer. Thanks. And she goes, they have been out and will be back in August, and we will be out of town most of July. And she says they have been out and will be back in August for twice, the same thing. And so then I answered, good. Well, I'll need them for about 2 weeks, so please be sure to accommodate your scheduling so we can set a proper time for pickup. She says that's good. After a year, you finally want to see them. You can get them anytime you want, before or after July. I have had plans that are paid for already that I can't change. She says it's about July 3rd to the 23rd, and that is all June 5th. And so then I responded back, this isn't any new information. You knew this time was coming, which is why you and I sought an attorney. Anyway, next time for this one, so you can. And she goes, I will not work around when it's finally have something to do. The boys have not contacted me for years and made plans for the summer, so as far as this time was coming, no, I had no idea, because you haven't even called them for the weekend or Christmas. So where was your idea? I have never kept them from you, and where also said you would give me a 30-day notice. If I don't have plans, then you get them. We should have had plans months ago, as I did, so I can work around my college times off, which is in July. I won't be changing stuff. It's already been off, which my lawyer already knows about for someone that walked out without even telling the boys anything. Really telling me to be mindful. That's not fair. I'm sorry. The boys are important to you, but they are my life. Everything I do is for them. It has been your loss and my goodness on this past year, but I will not change anything in our life to fit your schedule. You are the one that abandoned them. You can have them anytime it's convenient for you, as long as I don't have plans with them. I can't stop their life because you want to come in and out whenever it fits.
No one ever noticed any aggressive or abusive behavior from Michael. Michael's ex-wife, Sarah, never claimed Michael to be abusive towards her or their children. The only person to claim that Michael was abusive was Casey's ex-husband. Casey's family believed they were a happily married couple, even though they did not particularly like Michael. He appeared to be a doting father and husband, and Casey's social media pages were always filled with happy family photos and videos. No one thought to look for signs of trouble. None were found until it was too late. No doubt, unaddressed domestic violence played a significant role in the tragic events that occurred in this case. Casey's family continued to struggle with the loss of their loved ones. It has been more than 2 years since they lost Casey and her 4 children, and they continue to wait and see how this horrific tragedy will transpire. In court, Casey's sisters, Sarah and Brandy, talked about how close Casey was with her family and how badly losing her and the children has affected them all. Both of Casey's parents died without seeing their daughter's murderer brought to justice. Sarah said their mother wanted to see Michael get the death penalty. Sarah, however, disagrees with the death penalty. She sees death as an easy out for Michael and wishes him to spend the rest of his life in a cell with nothing but time to think about what he had done. What will the jury decide? Will Michael have to pay for his crimes with his life, Or will they choose to have him spend the rest of his life behind bars? If you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, no matter the severity, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They are available 24/7 by phone or chat to discuss domestic violence situations and help create a personalized safety plan. Call 1-800-799-SAFE 7233 or visit thehotline.org or a similar organization in your country. Help is waiting.
Say hi to the camera. Say hi. Hi, baby. He likes the sound of the water.
Oh. No damage. Haha. Fire.
If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.
Fill
I need emergency, please. Ambulance. Someone is hurt. Lacerate cut. Okay, who's cut? It's a teenager. Okay, male or female? They have a major cut to their neck. Do you know what happened? I don't know. My husband heard someone screaming and then we came outside. Ma'am, do you know if this person was assaulted? I don't know. We just came outside. They have a major wound to their neck and they're struggling to breathe. Are they awake? I don't think they're even responsive at this point. And is she breathing? I don't see any breath. Yes, breathing. Okay. She is breathing, you think? Yes, but struggling. Ma'am, is the blood spurting or pouring out? No, it's all over the ground. Okay, but is it spurting out or pouring out of the person? It may have already. I don't think this person has any more blood. Wow. It looks like a knife wound.
Unbelievable, bro.
Okay. I don't think it's breathing anymore. And I don't see them breathing. I don't think they're with us.
It's not only
In a
mud,
jealous
it's
rage, a
fucking
killer stabbed his
bumps.
victim multiple times and attempted to sever her head before fleeing into the woods as someone stepped out of their home hearing the commotion. The killer left his victim to bleed to death. Why did he do it? And why were the warning signs ignored after his first victim? Before we begin, we would like to send our sincere condolences to the loved ones of Kay Baker, who fell victim to the abominable acts described in this case. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. If you're looking for a game that will put your tactical skills to the test and enjoy slaughtering massive monsters with your carefully crafted armies, then arm yourself and prepare to undertake many challenges waiting for you in Raid Shadow Legends. Raid allows you to enhance your champions by unlocking masteries that make them specialists in their field, giving your champions more of an advantage in battle. Choose wisely as you look through the many masteries available to you. Between now and February 10th, Raid is hosting a special Champions Elect event where you can vote on your favorite starter champions. Participate for your chance to win some awesome prizes, including epic and legendary champions, in-game items, and Amazon gift cards. Only new U.S. players can win a prize. To make the new year even more exciting, Raid has released a new legendary champion, American professional wrestler Ronda Rousey. Claim Ronda by logging in and playing for 7 days between now and February the 20th. Use promo code RAIDRONDA to get a bunch of helpful stuff. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click on the link in the description or scan the QR code here on the screen and you'll get unique bonuses worth $35. We're talking a free epic champion, Jota, 100,000 silver, 50 gems, and 2 epic skill tones. All this treasure will be waiting for you here, available for 30 days to new players only. Meet Kay Elizabeth Baker, 43-year-old woman living in Lithia County, Florida with her 2 sons. Kay was a 3rd grade math and science teacher at Cypress Creek Elementary School in Ruskin, beloved by her students and peers. It was on a quiet, warm spring night on May 28, 2022. Jonathan Figgins, who lives next door to Kay, was sleeping peacefully on his couch, his wife and children sound asleep upstairs. It was right after midnight when Mr. Figgins heard unsettling sounds that roused him from his sleep. The best he could describe what he heard was the sound of someone falling on the floor and then a female gasping for breath. Mr. Figgins first thought one of his daughters had fallen out of bed and hit the floor. When he went upstairs to check, everyone was sound asleep in their beds. Upon investigating outside, Mr. Figgins spotted what he believed to be a teenage girl laying face down on the ground near his front yard. This woman later was identified as Kay Baker. Kay was lying in a pool of blood that appeared to be coming from around her neck. While checking the status of the injured woman, Mr. Figgins heard a sound from behind. He turned to hear a rustling sound that appeared to be coming from the wooded area behind his home, but he saw nothing. Mr. Figgins told his wife Ruth to call 911. By the time fire rescue and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office deputies arrived, Kay was gone. The medical examiner who inspected Kay's body at the crime scene discovered that she had multiple stab wounds to her shoulders and neck. Kay's neck laceration was so extreme, detectives concluded that the attacker had intended to sever her head from her body. Deputies searched the perimeter of Kay's home. In the driveway, detectives found a gray Ford Focus. After running the tags, they found out that it belonged to a Matthew Terry. One window was open and the screen was knocked out. The room belonged to one of Kay's boys, neither of which were home that night. This window was facing the Figgins home. From the window, turning right led to the front yard area, the area where Kay had been found. Left led into the backyard, where drops of blood were discovered. Detectives were able to quickly obtain a search warrant to enter Kay's home. Inside the house, it was noticed that in the kitchen a single knife was missing from a butcher block knife set, and a cell phone had been left nearby. The knife missing from the set was a specialized paring knife called a bird's beak knife, given that name because of its 3-inch curved blade, which resembled a parrot's beak. The knife was never located. The bathroom door frame had major damage, showing that someone had violently forced the door open at some point. The main bedroom showed recent signs of forced entry as well, and another cell phone was found on the nightstand. Deputies found the door to the child's room with the open window was locked, so they had to force the door open. They found no one inside the house. To follow the blood trail, deputies brought in a bloodhound. The scent led the dog into a thick wooded area behind the subdivision. After trailing the scent for a while, the bloodhound led the deputy to an area of woods off of Lithia Pinecrest Road. There, they found a patch of grass covered in blood. Knowing there was a good chance that the perpetrator was nearby, deputies decided to bring out a different canine unit, a Belgian Malinois, one trained to attack and apprehend criminals. Deputies led the dog towards the blood found by the bloodhound and shouted out warnings that they had a dog that will bite if whoever is out there doesn't come out. After a moment, the dog begins barking and attempts to charge forward. They soon found Matthew hiding in the tall grass and bushes. He was wearing only a t-shirt and his underwear. His clothes were soaked in blood. Matthew had injuries on his neck and was having difficulty walking. After apprehending Matthew, police ended their chase and Matthew was arrested on first-degree murder charges. May 27th marked the last day of the school season. To celebrate, Kay went to the Landing Bar and Grill that night with her boyfriend, 37-year-old Matthew Terry. At some point, Kay and Matthew got up to use the restrooms. Kay came out first and happened to run into a friend of hers, Kelly Andrews. Excited to bump into each other, Kay starts doing a little happy dance. As Kay is doing her little happy dance, a man, unknown to either Kay or Kelly, walked by and playfully mimicked Kay's happy dance as he passes by. This lasts for maybe 4 seconds. This interaction between Kay and the stranger occurred right as Matthew was walking out of the restroom. Matthew immediately jumped to the conclusion that Kay had danced with another man and became furious. At the bar, Matthew starts an argument with Kay, angrily accusing her of dancing with another man. This accusation is heard by both Kelly and a nearby bar patron. Matthew and Kay left the bar and headed home around 11:30 p.m. It was about a 90-minute drive back to their home, and Matthew continued to argue with Kay about dancing with another man. Kay decided to call Kelly and have her tell Matthew that she wasn't dancing with a passing stranger. Kelly overheard Kay tell Matthew to stop being stupid. After the phone call, Kelly received a text message from Kay at 11:56 p.m. that read, "LOL, sorry for that, so dumb, all good now." About 30 minutes later, Mr. Figgins found Kay bleeding to death in his yard. Investigators at the crime scene believed Matthew had attempted to murder Kay while he was in a drunken rage. They believe he stabbed her multiple times and attempted to remove her head before she found a way to escape through a window and made her way into her neighbor's yard. Kay was not Matthew's first victim. He had a criminal history of violence towards women, which Kay was well aware of. 5 years before Matthew murdered Kay in a jealous rage, he was in a relationship with a woman named Michelle Rogers. Matthew and Michelle had met over a dating app in 2015. They both lived in Michigan at the time. Michelle lived there with her 5-year-old son. Matthew had spent a few years in the Marines. Around the time he met Michelle, he was working as a wrestling coach. After dating casually for a few months, Michelle decided that she wanted to end the relationship. That is, until she found out that she was pregnant. For the baby, Michelle thought it best to make her relationship with Matthew work. Soon, they moved in together. But all too soon, it became apparent that Matthew was abusive and violent. These behaviors worsened when he drank. Once, he threw a cast-iron pan at Michelle while she was holding their infant son. Another time, Matthew picked up her cat and threw it against the wall. On nights when he was both angry and drunk, Matthew would show up at Michelle's apartment and bang on her door saying that he knew she was sleeping with another man and would demand to be let in. During that time, Matthew worked for a local internet provider. One day, he told one of his co-workers he wanted to stab the out of Michelle. The co-worker took Matthew's statement as a way of venting and thought nothing more of it. But a few months later, on March 17, 2017, it was brought to light just how serious Matthew was. Matthew and Michelle had gone out bar hopping with a few of their friends that day. Around 6 p.m., Michelle was ready to go home. She went looking for Matthew, who happened to be at a bar adjacent to the one that she was in. Michelle found him so drunk he was slurring his words and stumbling. Michelle was so upset by how drunk Matthew had allowed himself to get that she went home and left him at the bar. Around 8 p.m., Matthew comes knocking at the back door.
That door, and I proceeded to let him in. At that time, he was very clearly drunk. He couldn't walk straight. He seemed just very, it's hard to describe, but just you can kind of sense his energy as being very frustrated or angry or upset. Just in general, just a general sense.
So was the kid saying you got a vibe off of him that was some danger?
Correct.
Did you do anything in that moment?
I did not. I went and I sat back down on the couch where I was when he showed up.
And what is he doing?
So he went into the kitchen, and I believe he was making a sandwich. He was making some kind of food at the counter, and the kitchen and the living room area is pretty open. So as I was sitting on the couch, I could see him. So I remember sitting on the couch watching TV, and then the next thing I remember is standing behind the couch, and I'm looking at him in the kitchen, and I remember him coming around the counter and coming at me.
Before that, before we get to the part where he comes at you, do you remember if you guys are having any sort of argument, if anything's being said, if he's saying something, you're saying something, whatever the case may be?
I don't recall any of that, no.
So you remember now all of a sudden there's a moment he's coming at you, and I want you to describe that as best as you can. You mean he's just leisurely walking in your direction?
No, he was coming at me very quickly and aggressively to the point where I kind of backed off and braced myself, and I actually verbally said, you know, what are you doing? You know, oh my God, what are you doing?
When you said the words to him, what are you doing? What, if anything, did you do?
He proceeded to knock me into the front door that was behind me, and at that point then we both fell to the floor. So then we're on the floor, and he's just trying to keep me on the floor, and he keeps punching me wherever he can find access to punch me, so whether it be the face, the chest, the back, wherever. And he was a wrestler, and the best way I can describe what he was doing is trying to keep me in wrestling moves and keep me on the floor so that I couldn't escape.
When you say he's a wrestler, you mean like in the WWE, or you mean like a high school?
High school coach, or a coach. Maybe it wasn't high school, but he was a wrestling coach. And I can't remember if he wrestled himself, but as the struggle continues and I'm trying to break free, there was a point when I yelled at him. I said, "No, I love you. Why are you doing this?" And he said, "No, you don't. Fuck you. I'm gonna kill you." He just continues to, for lack of a better phrase, beat the shit out of me. And I keep trying to escape. There is a point where I'm able to stand up, and he continues to punch me in the face. At one point, he gets me onto the floor, and
are you still in the same place by the door, or has the fight moved?
No, it moved through the living room, and then where I landed on the floor was, I landed face first, with my upper body like on the kitchen tile, and then my lower half was on the carpet of the living room. And at that point, there was blood everywhere.
Where is the blood coming from?
I believe my nose. At that time, he had broken my nose. But I remember trying to push myself up, and he was on me. And every time I tried to push myself up, I couldn't grip on the floor because there was so much blood. And he would purposely put his weight on me and push me back down, so I was unable to get up.
And through all of this, are you fighting, resisting, trying to stop him?
Yes.
So what comes next?
So I remember laying there, and I was laying on my left side, and I remember seeing the trash can there. There was a black trash can. And at this point, he was taking both of his hands, and he was taking my head, and he was slamming it into the floor. And so every time he would do that, my vision would go black. And I thought he was going to knock me out, or I would be unconscious or something. I was thinking, like, holy shit, is this really happening? And I was really disoriented and dizzy, and I was hearing all the shuffling in the kitchen. And then the next thing you know, Mr. Terry comes around behind me and stabs me in the neck.
You say he stabs you in the neck. Do you know what he stabs you with in the neck?
I didn't see it, but it was a knife. So at that point, again, it was just kind of the thought, like, holy shit, he just stabbed me with a knife. Like, I need to get the hell out of this house right in time in here. And so I remember standing up, and as I stood up, he continued to, try and stop me and try and punch me. I was able to get loose for enough time to be able to turn around, and directly behind me there was the garage door. So I was able to get the garage door open and run to the garage. So I pushed the opener with my left hand as I was running out to try and get the garage door to open so I could escape that way.
Oh my fucking god,
It did. And I ran towards it, but it was very slow. So I couldn't quite get under it right away before he was able to get to me.
Alright, so now you're waiting for the garage door to be open enough, and he attacks you again?
Yes.
Describe how he's attacking you again.
He was just trying to stop me from leaving, and we both fell to the ground at that point and somehow had rolled out of the garage that was open down the driveway.
So now you've spilled out onto the driveway like out in public.
Correct.
What's happening there?
So we were rolling down the driveway a bit, and I ended up in a position where I was under him, and he was on top of me. He had used both of his hands to take my head and slam it into the cement multiple times. had the knife, and he had stabbed me 3 times in the right shoulder.
Right, so he's still armed with his knife, even though he fled out of the home and chased you.
Yes, and this entire time I'm screaming for someone to come help me.
At that point, do you realize that some sort of neighbor or person nearby has responded to the calls for help?
Yeah, as I was screaming, I could very faintly hear voices across the street saying, you know, get off of her, and I just hear them talking louder.
So we're at a point where Mr. Terry, you are in the driveway, you're still fighting, you're still armed with a knife. Tell me what else he's doing and what you're doing in response.
So again, I'm screaming this entire time, you know, that he's going to kill me and somebody please help me. But he had stabbed me those 3 times in the shoulder, and he went to bring the knife down again, and I had reached up and I grabbed with my right hand the blade end of the knife in midair. And don't ask me how I did it. I just grabbed. And I took the knife and I pulled it. Again, I'm on my back, and I pulled it across my face, and I just remember thinking he was going to like stab my eye out or something as I'm doing this, but I was able to pull the knife enough over that it fell out of his hand, and it fell to my left side. And then I kind of rolled over it and tucked it in so that he didn't have access to it anymore.
So once you've kind of tucked the knife under your body, rolled onto it, does he stop fighting with you, or does he still
No.
try to get
No, he was still slamming my head to the floor, and he would reach down with his hand, and he would try and like fish for the knife real quick, but then I would try to get up, and then he would pull me back down again, and then, you know, kind of just back and forth, like trying to fish for the knife, and I'd get up, and he'd try to fish for the knife, and then he'd push me back down, and there was a point when he had gotten really pissed off because I was kind of, you know, holding the knife with my arm as it's tucked under me, and he reached down and he bit me on the forearm here to try and get the knife loose from my grasp.
Was that the only place he bit you?
No. Shortly after that, after he fished a couple more times for the knife and couldn't get it, he reached down and he bit me twice on the side of my left cheek to try and get me to let go.
Throughout all of this, are you screaming and yelling for help, asking him to stop, putting up resistance?
Yes.
So, does this eventually fight sort of end at some point?
Yeah, so we didn't live that far from the hospital and stuff, and as the neighbors were, you know, I later found out they were on the phone with 911 at the time. We could hear sirens coming. You could hear them coming from around the corner, not too far away, and when we both heard the sirens, that's when he got up off of me and ran into the house.
What did you do?
I got up and I grabbed the knife so he couldn't get it back again, and I didn't see very clearly because my contacts were in, but they were all like covered in blood. But I ran across the street to the voices of the neighbors who were telling me to come over there, you know, come here. And then I proceeded to go across the street and I collapsed on my back in the front yard.
Like Kay, police found Michelle lying in her neighbor's yard after being bitten, beaten, and stabbed multiple times. Michelle was lucky to survive the attack. However, she had to spend 5 days in intensive care. A detective, Matthew Crumbs, who investigated the crime scene, said it was as close to a homicide as you could get without it being a homicide. For his violent acts towards Michelle, Matthew was charged with attempted murder. After being arrested for attacking Michelle, Matthew contacted an old friend to testify for him in court. That old friend was a woman he had dated nearly 20 years earlier. Her name was Kay Baker. Kay was more than happy to testify and stand up for her friend's character in court. She told the judge, "Matthew is very truthful and I trust him completely." Michelle tried desperately to get Kay to see the monster that Matthew truly was. During the trial, Michelle sent Kay photos of her stab wounds through Facebook Messenger and said, "Please don't let this be you." But Kay could only see the man she knew Matthew to be back in those days 20 years prior when they dated. Kay was not the only one defending Matthew. He had many friends and family in the courtroom supporting him. They all just glared and shook their heads as Michelle spoke in court. Somehow, Matthew's lawyer convinced the jury that his attack on Michelle was in self-defense. He further explained, being an ex-Marine, Matthew used his training to neutralize the fight that Michelle had started. Matthew was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison for assault with intent to cause great bodily harm. In a letter written to the Michigan parole board, Michelle said, "If he gets out, I fear for myself and my family, and for the next victim. Society is in danger." Michelle's warnings fell on deaf ears, and Matthew served only 3 years before being discharged in December of 2021. Matthew was released on good behavior and had passed a domestic violence class. Matthew stayed in touch with Kay during those 3 years he spent in prison. After he was released, he moved to Florida to begin a new life with her. All seemed to be going well until the dreadful morning of May the 28th shined a light on what was going on behind closed doors. Matthew claimed he was not guilty of hurting or killing his girlfriend, Kay. However, prosecutors believe Matthew murdered her in a jealous rage because he believed that she had danced with another man while they were at the bar. After Kay's murder, investigator Crumbs, who was part of the team who investigated the crime scene after Matthew's attack on Michelle, told the Times that Matthew Terry was a textbook case of an evil, narcissistic, manipulative killer. The trial between Matthew Terry and the state of Florida began in November of 2022. Prosecutors worked hard to convince the jury that Matthew was responsible for the death of Kay Baker and wanted the jury to receive the death penalty. They believe Matthew had also tried to take his own life after murdering Kay. That's why he was found with multiple cuts on his throat. Matthew's lawyers tried to convince the jury that Matthew and Kay had been attacked by an intruder who Matthew was unable to identify, and this perpetrator escaped out a window. Matthew's attorneys claimed that deputies gave up the chase too quickly. They assumed that Matthew was the killer immediately, and therefore allowed the real killer to get away. Since the murder weapon was never recovered, Matthew's lawyers tried to downplay the size of the missing knife from the kitchen, the bird's beak knife, to state the knife's inability to do the damage that was done to Kay.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about was the knives. You said you actually looked, and you're the one who found that there was that one bird's beak knife missing, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that one bird's beak knife was the only one missing?
Out of the butcher's block? Yes, ma'am.
And that is what we call a paring knife. It's a little curved knife, right?
Yes, ma'am.
There were a bunch of steak knives there, right?
Outside of the block in the drawer?
Either in the block itself or outside of the block. There were a bunch of steak knives, right?
Yes.
A bunch of big knives too, right?
Yes.
And the one that we're talking about is a little itty bitty small paring knife, and that's the only one that was missing from the home, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any idea if that ever even existed in the year prior?
I cannot tell you that.
Thank you.
Matthew's attorneys fought hard to keep the previous case between Matthew and Michelle out of the current case, knowing how damaging it would be for the jury to know about Matthew's violent history. They didn't, however, get their way. Michelle was brought in to testify, and she shared the assault that she had suffered at the hands of Matthew back in 2017, which possibly played a major role in the jury's decision. Within only an hour and 10 minutes, the jury unanimously convicted Terry on a charge of first-degree murder and sentenced him not to death, but to life in prison.
But based on what I heard, I believe that you should have been in prison in Michigan and that Miss Baker should still be alive. This is Florida. You're going to prison for the rest of your life. I adjudicate you guilty. I sentence you to life in prison. I impose all fines, fees, associated charges, and I advise you that you have 30 days to appeal the judgment and sentence entered against you. Thank you.
If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and please subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.
She didn't meet the physical attributes of what I was looking for in a wife, but I felt like, hey, this must be the woman that God wanted me to marry. Jesus' voice talking to me about contacting the Mormon church, and he gave me information about them. I followed the instructions of the dream. I contacted the Mormon church. They sent me their Book of Mormon, and everything that I read matched the information that was given to me in the dream. Having been in the emergency field, firefighting and police, you learn to control your emotions and not let emergency situations get you startled. So yeah, I learned that, but as far as not being afraid to die, I think that's more of my relationship with God. I'm ready. Yeah, I don't mind dying at all.
This is Robert Frauta. He has been sentenced to death for a horrific crime. But to understand his crimes, we have to go back to November 9th, 1994.
Oh, not enough speed.
Now on county, what is your emergency?
Yes, I just saw a shooting, please.
Okay, do you know if anybody's been shot?
Yes, I see the lady. I see her in her garage right now.
Was somebody shot?
Yes.
Stay on the line. Let me connect you with the ambulance service. Hold on. County.
Yes, I just saw a shooting.
You just saw a shooting?
Yes.
And what is your location?
I'm at Timbers Trail in Atascocita.
Timbers Trail?
Yes. In Atascocita. You need to send an ambulance. She's down.
All right, I just need to find out where we're going now.
There's a black man. Is he black? I don't want to say he's black.
Sir, have you done
He's
the
dressed
call?
in black. There's a man at her house still, and my lights are on, and I know.
Okay, have you called the sheriff's department yet?
No, I just thought it was...
This is marijuana. We need to transfer if you're done with it, because we need to get out there. Very good, then. I'll have to out there. Dispatch out.
Okay, there's someone still over there.
Lauren, stay on the line.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Harris County Sheriff's Department. County have a shooting. Atascocita, I'm messing around. Go ahead, ma'am. Suspect's still there.
Okay, so there's still a person out there. There's a black gentleman. He's wearing a black shirt and a black pants. The lady is down in her garage. She's been shot 2 times. There are 2 shots.
Oh dear. Okay. All right. And what EMS was en route to Atascocita?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. And the suspect is still there. Where's Sky?
She is in her garage.
The suspect?
No, the suspect is, there's a car that just pulled up. The suspect is behind a tree, and he can't see me. I have my lights up, but there's a car that just pulled up. I can't tell what car it is. Okay, ma'am. Oh God, my husband's not getting here. I think Darren wants to see the license plate, but he can't get the license plate for the car.
Okay. So if you can, will you call us back, okay?
Okay.
If the guy gets you the
car license plate, babe? Can I get that from the house at the door, please? Did the man get in the car?
Ma'am, the black man's house, right?
Yes, the black man just got in the car, but it was a silver car, I believe. Darren, did you know what kind of car it is?
Ma'am, did you say this is Timber Trail Drive?
Timbers Trail Drive, yes.
It has an S on it?
Let me tell you something about the car real quick. It's a silver car with 1 burnt out headlight.
Okay.
Back, real small Toyota. About 6 years old.
It could be a Honda.
It could be a Honda. The lady is still in her garage. And they turned the lights out in the garage.
Does the car look like it's waiting for suspect?
Yes, cargo arrives.
With them in there?
Yes. The suspect just took off.
Did you get this? Okay.
No, my husband went out to look, but then I just gave you the
It's
description.
all cargo.
Does Timbers have an S on it?
Timbers, yes, it does.
Okay, that's why it's not coming up in the computer. Okay, let me try this.
I'm just very scared because I know these people just my lights are on. Do you think they saw my house?
Hold on, just a moment.
Should we go over there and see her? Darren, please don't go over there. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes?
I'm going to transfer you to Constable Precinct 4 so they can talk to you, okay?
Okay.
Since this is an in progress, you might have some information that they need.
Thank you. Don't go over there, sweetie.
Hold on, ma'am.
Okay. God. Darren, my roommates are going to go over there to see her. Ma'am, I have precinct 4 on the line. Okay, precinct 4. Go ahead, sir. Okay.
Can you tell me what's going on?
Yeah, I just saw a shooting. I was in my living room nursing my baby, and I looked out my window, and our neighbor was outside her garage, and she was shot 2 times.
By a passing motorist?
No, the guy, it looked like he was either in her garage waiting for her, or I just saw his pants, and then I saw a black man, and he was dressed in black, and he was waiting, and he jumped into a car.
What kind of a car?
It was a silver car. My husband gave the 911 description, but my husband just pulled up into her driveway. He can see her, and she's down. My husband's going right down to see if he can help her.
Okay, your husband is not armed or anything?
No. The only thing he has is mace.
Okay, did y'all see who did it?
No, all I saw was the pants, and then I saw the gentleman, but I can't give a description of the guy.
Okay, but he was in a silver Toyota?
Yes, and a hatchback there, so it had one headlight out or one something out. My husband knows. He's over there with her right now.
Okay, and he shot her twice?
Yes, I heard 2 shots, and I heard her scream, and I looked out my window. And my lights are on, and these people saw inside my house. So my husband's running. She shot in the head, my husband said. She shot in her head.
Yeah, that woman has been shot in the head, and she's still alive.
And she does have 3 children. I do not know if the children are home.
Huh?
Okay, there's a police officer coming. I see someone coming.
Yeah.
Oh, dear Jesus, help this woman.
Okay, we got a unit over there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and you need to advise them what y'all did see, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Before we begin, we would like to send our sincere condolences to the loved ones of Farah Frauta, who fell victim to the abominable acts described in this case. It was a quiet Wednesday evening in the suburban area of Humboldt, Texas on November 9th, 1994. 33-year-old Farah Frauta had just returned home from visiting the hair salon, an errand she scheduled while her 3 children were at their usual Wednesday evening with their father, Robert Frauta. After opening the garage door, Farah was taken by surprise when a man walked through the door and shot her in the head. She screamed and fell to the cement floor. Before leaving, the intruder shot her in the head one more time and then stood behind a tree in the yard to wait for his ride, who appeared less than a minute later. Farah was left lying in a pool of blood. What the intruder didn't realize was that he had been spotted by neighbors from across the street, Laura and Darren Holscher, who saw the whole thing and called 911. By the time police and paramedics arrived at the scene, Farah had already lost a significant amount of blood. Police spoke with the Holschers, who provided them with a description of the shooter and the getaway car. Not long after police and paramedics arrived at the scene, Robert came driving up with the children. Detectives at the scene asked Robert to come to the police station to make a statement, which he agreed and was interviewed by police that same night. While the police investigated the scene and interviewed the witnesses, paramedics focused on getting Farah into a chopper to get her to the hospital quickly. But it was too late. She died before she even reached the hospital. Farah had been living alone with her 3 children after she had filed for divorce from Robert in March of 1992, something Robert was not happy about. The divorce turned ugly very fast because Farah exposed Robert's sexual fetishes and was fighting for custody of their children. Robert was also fighting for custody. Farah's murder occurred 3 weeks before the divorce trial. At the police station, Detective Larry Davis conducted the interrogation with Robert. Davis asked Robert where he had been during the time of Farah's murder. Robert said that he took the children to church that evening.
The police say Frauta didn't seem surprised. His demeanor was not what you would expect from the husband of the 6th, although they were going through a very bitter divorce.
During the interrogation, Davis noticed that Robert appeared smug and showed signs of deception throughout the whole process.
His demeanor was such, and during the interview, that he was not what we would call freely forthcoming with all his information.
What Robert never showed was emotion toward his wife's tragic death.
He showed no remorse. He showed only
The fact that he was full of himself, that he was cocky, that he could beat this. That's the impression you got of Bob Fratta that day. The prosecutors wanted the last thing the jury to see was Bob Fratta winking at the camera.
How did you find your wife? I didn't. That's where all the everything was roped off, or taped off. And when I walked over, like I said, my initial reaction because nobody really looked frantic or anything like that. I mean, I guess it all had already occurred, and life had already taken off, whatever. And I honestly thought there was a drug raid or something. So that's why I walked over. It's starting to hit me now. I mean, I loved her. I mean, I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. I never wanted a divorce. I didn't do anything to warrant a divorce.
I don't know. Why does she want a divorce?
Davis then asked what should happen to someone and the life Robert said it depended on the circumstances. At that moment, Davis believed, without a doubt, that Robert was involved in Laura's murder. Without solid evidence to convict him, they had to let Robert go. After detectives received Robert's permission to search his home, they found an address book and an envelope containing $1,000. Robert explained detectives believed that the money in Robert's car was included. Robert knew that he killed his wife.
At the same time, it could easily be later. It could be money left over from a payment.
The detectives contacted multiple people they found in Robert's address book, mostly friends. All of these men told investigators that Robert was going around asking if there was anyone willing to kill his wife. Robert's alibi was also investigated. Detectives found out that Robert spent the majority of that night on the phone.
He was at church, he was visiting. One thing he didn't found is that there were phone calls that showed that there were phone calls made all night long between his pager, that was used by Stash's mother, church, and so they communicated with each other on his own.
After obtaining phone records from the church, detectives discovered that he made pager owned by Mary Gill. One call to Farah's house and multiple calls to a payphone outside of a grocery store located close to Farah's home. Detectives spoke to Gill, who said that she was at home with her boyfriend, Joseph Eyestash, the night that Farah was murdered, and said that she didn't recall using either her phone or her pager. On March the 1st, 1995, Gill was subpoenaed to testify in front of a grand jury. It was at this point that she agreed to tell all, as long as she was provided with prosecution. Gill explained that her boyfriend, Eyestash, Robert from the jail. She said Robert first hired Eyestash 6 months before Farah's death with an attack, which he did using a taser gun. Farah reported to police and suspected Farah was behind. However, at that time, there was no evidence to prove who had done it or why, so the police could do nothing. Eyestash knows someone Gibbs' 18-year-old neighbor, Howard Gibb. Gibb also supplied detectives with the serial number of the gun that was used to kill Farah, and it matched a gun Howard was arrested for bank robbery on March 1st of 1995. It also matched the bullets found at the shooting. Detectives discovered discovered that Robert had purchased the gun. Guidry not only admitted to police that Price Stash hired him to kill Robert's wife for $1,000, he also gave a full demonstration of the
So I creeped around like this, and I checked the door, but it was locked from the outside. She like fell to the side, or slumped to the side, and I started to run out. And
Înțeleg ce pula mea virează invers.
I
Dau corecție și zicem pizda, mă.
Price Stash back to Billings said Price Stash told him everything. To give him in exchange for his services. Police arrested Price Stash on March 13, 1995 for his involvement in Robert's murder. After gathering all the evidence against him, police were finally able to arrest Robert on charges of solicitation of murder. April 21st, 1995. Robert's first trial was held in April of 1996, and the jury found him guilty of the capital murder of Robert, and he was sentenced to death by lethal injection.
The victim's family wept when the verdict was read. So did Prada's family. The defendant only stared at the table in front of him. The gunman's confession was read in court, which Prada's attorneys objected to. Fine comment that the victim's parents, who are in custody of their grandchildren, said plenty.
I know you're in heaven. I'm something like that. I'm going to meet you in
Wait for the day when I see him laying on that table, waiting to get the injection. That will be justice for me.
13 years later, Roberts' case was overturned due to inadmissible evidence provided during the first trial. In 2009, Robert had a retrial and was again found guilty and sentenced to death. His sentence was carried out on January 10th of 2023.
We the jury find that murder was charged in the indictment. Signed,
How could a person be capable of orchestrating murder like this? How could that person be so crazy as to ask if someone would be willing to help commit the crime? Then, after the murder was committed, go around smiling just like anything happened. Simply put, Robert was a narcissist.
I thought he was pretty much the center of the universe, and that he could not stand the idea of a woman walking out of thought he knew enough about police work, law enforcement investigations that
couldn't go past him. What that test really said, when they called him sociopathic, narcissistic.
Potter was diagnosed as narcissistic and also having an antisocial personality disorder.
A forensic psychologist with over 20 years of experience, Dr. Jack offers
exaggerated feelings of self-importance, an excessive need for admiration, a severe self-centeredness, a diminished ability to empathize or some of the earlier writings on narcissistic personality disorder, psychologists talk about this as a condition of psychosis, with the individual's belief about situations not always based in the reality or the facts of the situation. The perceptions of the situations often towards their own self-aggrandizement or success.
For Robert's 2009 retrial, certified forensic psychiatrist studied Robert's medical records going back 25 years. From his study, Dr. Bailey concluded suffering from delusional thoughts and a mild brain impairment. He also described Robert as narcissistic. A 2018 interview with film director Glenn Herzog insight into the Robert
religious revelations, as if a finger of God had pointed at him.
It was Jesus' words about contacting the Mormon Church and gaining information about them, and it coincided with to write about a new government system and from a new country, and I didn't follow the instructions of the Mormon Church. They sent me the Book of Mormon, and everything that I read matched the information that was given to me in the dream. And, you know, that's not something that's going to happen, especially when you have no knowledge of this at all. So, in my dreams, just a part of the United States that, like the 15th would go into land within the United States to form our own nation. And as we're came to be a Christian nation, things were aligned with the Bible, Christian nation.
There's a lot of evidence to indicate that Frade had very strong narcissistic personality features, if not a narcissistic personality disorder. He was often superficial, glib. He often performed for the camera and talked about himself and received self-importance. Also, he appeared empathy towards his estranged wife or how the situation would likely affect his children.
Police who quickly noticed Robert's in 1994, according to Lieutenant Billings.
I thought he was smarter than everybody else, and he thought he was smarter than we were.
During Robert's interrogation, which occurred only hours after Frade's death, he attempted to choke with the detective.
var det.
To use this information to his advantage. The police investigation was typical forensic interviewing techniques, strategies. Not significant information from the suspect. As a narcissist with delusional thoughts, Robert Silver convinced himself he had every right to rid himself of Farah, who was divorcing her and getting the custody of her children, as well as for exposing Greg's secret sexual relations. Even if a person is narcissistic and delusional, how can they believe that they have the right to take someone's life and they're not responsible for a person's death? How could someone with severe narcissism murder someone else or arrange for someone to be murdered? Well, if their drive to meet their own desires is so intense, they can it makes sense that a severe narcissist would murder someone to murder. To the channel. Also hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadow. He would have never done this to you. Shame on you. Honestly, shame on you, Ryan Lamb. Nixon's mother then paused before continuing with, I've seen no sympathy, no regret. My son is in an urn at my